We're going to construct confidence intervals on the TI, confidence intervals for the mean with sigma known. The problem is the publisher wants to estimate the mean length of time in minutes that adults spend reading the paper. The publisher takes a random sample of 15 adults, assumes sigma equals 1.6 minutes, and that the population of times is normally distributed. Our data, the first bullet shows the time in minutes for the 15 adults. Sigma, remember, is 1.6 minutes, and we want to construct the 90% and 99% confidence intervals for the population mean, and we want to decide which interval is wider. At this point, you need to enter the data into L1 in your calculator. Okay, so you've entered your data into L1, and now what we need to do is press Stat, arrow over to Tests, and what we're interested in is number 7, the Z interval. I'm just going to press 7, and it shows the Z interval, and the input that we have is data. If we had gone ahead and found the mean, we could have used stats, but we didn't, so we're going to go back over and use data. We're going to input sigma, which was 1.6. We entered our data in L1, so we'll leave that. Our frequency is just 1, and the first interval we want to do is a 90% interval, and it turns out we can either do 0.90 or we can do 90, and we want to arrow down and we want to calculate. And so our interval is 8.59 over to 9.95 if we're rounding to 2 decimal places. Our mean, you might notice, is 9.27. It gives us our standard deviation, and it also reminds us that our sample size was 15. Now we want to go back and we want to find the 99% confidence interval. So we're going to press Stat again, arrow over to Tests, choose number 7. Everything will stay the same, except our confidence interval is now 99%. So I'm going to show you that it works using 99. I'm going to arrow down to calculate. And we get that our Z interval, our confidence interval, is 8.20, comma 10.33 when rounded to 2 decimal places. Our mean is still 9.27, and N is 15. So, in interval notation, the 90% confidence interval is 8.59 to 9.95. But sometimes you need to know the margin of error. And we can calculate the margin of error by taking the upper limit, 9.95, and subtracting the mean, which was 9.27, which we would get 0.68 minutes, and we would write that as 9.27 plus or minus 0.68. For the 99% confidence interval, in interval notation we got 8.20 to 10.33. Due to rounding, we get 9.27 plus or minus 1.06, which doesn't exactly work for the 8.20. So what we find is that the 99% confidence interval is wider. The margin of error, the 1.06, is wider than the 0.68 we got for the 90% confidence interval. And remember, the more confident you want to be, the wider the interval or the bigger the target you need.